Anyway, welcome everyone. One of the things that comes up frequently during tech support is, where are my files? Finding log files, finding images, and so forth. It's actually pretty straightforward, but because of all of the capabilities of ACP, it can be really confusing. So let me try to explain this to you in a way that hopefully will make sense and allow you to navigate through the files that ACP produces. Before we do that, I want to just say one thing, and that is, please, in order to get your notifications of these programs, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe. When you come to our channel, you'll see this subscribe button here. If you haven't subscribed, it will look like this, and then all you have to do is click it, and it'll say you've subscribed. And then if you want to get notifications of when these programs start and when they're upcoming, because I do post them a few days ahead of time, click this bell icon like that, and it will then give you all the notifications for being able to do that. I'll remind you about this again at the end of the program. Okay, so I'm going to take it pretty easy, and anytime you have questions, please ask. Hi, Paul. I see you've joined us from Australia. That's good. The first thing I'm going to do in order to help you navigate the way that ACP stores its image, log, and plan files is take you to the online help, and specifically, let me go do this. Specifically, the Getting Started section, and that would be step 7. When you first get ACP and start working with it and installing it, and by the way, most of what you see here in ACP Help has to do with installing and configuring it, because it has to be able to work with an infinite number of combinations of equipment. And in order for that to happen, there's a lot of settings that have to be done up front. We try to make it as easy as possible. We try to give you, we have given you this Getting Started thing, and it should get you to taking your first images in the first night you try it. If you have equipment that's working, it should just be able to go right straight to taking images on the first night. So anyway, if you look here at this and you work your way through that, you'll see that your plan, which you just made, is saved to My Documents, ACP Astronomy, Plans, and then a name. As you work through this, you'll see, if you see the end of run, take a look at the image you just acquired. It will be in My Documents, ACP Astronomy, Images with a name. And also, what you see going through the console of ACP, as the run progresses, it's going to tell you here during your Getting Started session, guess where the file's located for the log. It's going to be located in My Documents, ACP Astronomy, Logs. Do you see the pattern here? Everywhere, all of the files that ACP produces, when you're in the observatory and you're doing observing, not out on the web or anything, this is where it's going to be. Let me go back here. Okay. So here's the first thing to keep in mind. There are several ways that ACP can be used. The two biggest ways is locally in the observatory, and that includes if you remote desktop or team view or whatever into your computer, then you might as well be sitting right at the keyboard, right? So I'm going to treat that as though you were physically present in the observatory. When you remote in, it's the same thing. You have access to the whole system. You could erase the hard disk, right? So you're there, you're the observatory operator, you're the King Kong, that's it. So at that point, when you're running inside the observatory, whether you're running through ACP's console or through the web, the files that you produce are going to be sent to My Documents ACP Astronomy. And that is, let me bring myself back here and look at one other thing. I'll show you in the system what that looks like. I've got all this prepared. Okay. So again, My Documents, ACP Astronomy. So we have the images here, and the normal way that they're named by ACP is they go in a folder by date, and then here are the images. So, for example, for another date, there's some images. Here's some that I put together today. My Documents, ACP Astronomy images. The log files from the run will go here under Logs. My Documents, ACP Astronomy logs. There they are from the 10th of May and today's logs. This is it. There's a log, right? Okay. So again, we're running the scheduler inside the observatory. If, by chance, you push the Use Web Browser button in ACP here, obviously you're inside the observatory, right? Otherwise, you couldn't get to ACP's window. So, the first thing you see is this message. You are remoted into the desktop, or you are really physically inside the observatory. This is not the best way to use ACP if you're remote. Talk to us, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the idea here is you're totally bypassing ACP's web mobile capabilities, and you're remoting into the observatory, and you're running it that way. Well, who are you? If you have that kind of privilege, again, you could erase the hard drive, right? You're the observatory operator. That's what I didn't need. Hold on. Put this in the, who knew, right? Okay. Sorry about that. One other thing I have to take out. Okay, so you're inside the observatory, whether you are or not. If you push the Use Web Browser button, same deal. You're there. You had to have access to the physical console. So, in that case, guess where you're? If you do observing from here using these forms, let's go here. Let's say you use the single image form here, or you use the color series form, and you do an observation. If you do that, guess where your files are going to go? Right here to the real My Documents ACP Astronomy. Let's get there. There we are again. My Documents ACP Astronomy. Right there. That's it. So whether you're using the ACP console or the web browser by pushing the Use Web Browser button, as the observatory operator, all your files are always going to go to the physical, real Windows My Documents ACP Astronomy, images, logs, and plans. Okay, if you have questions, as I say, please ask on the way through. I'll do my best to answer them. All right. Now, the other way that you can use ACP is to go in by the web browser from a remote location. And I'm going to close this out. Back to Chrome here. I'm going to close this out and reopen it. This time, I'm going to log in as though I'm somewhere else in the world. I'm going to use the domain name, bob.dc3.com. When I do that, the first thing that happens is you get asked for a sign-in. This is kind of out of the way here. Anyway. Okay. I sign in. Now, the first thing you might notice, or maybe not, is there's a new section here in the web browser called My Documents. Here's where your acquire images come from, your observing plans, and your run logs. Why is this? You're not in the observatory. You're actually reaching through the web server, and you're going into the disk and having the web server pull stuff out of the disk from afar, as they say. As a result, the web server has to be able to talk to the disk. Here is something that is really important, and this is really the key to the whole thing. Let me get to this, and then I need to open an image for you. This. Okay. Take a look at this image. I'm trying to move it. Why can't I move it? Let's try that again. Sorry about that. There. Oh, I was grabbing the image toolbar instead of the image viewer toolbar. That's funny. All right. How this works is the web server in ACP has to be restricted to a certain part of the disk. Imagine if the web server could get to anywhere on your whole disk. What a huge security leak that would be. Believe me, in the old days, this was a problem before the original web server authors figured this out. You can go ... and go up, right? So what the web server does is it restricts access from it to your disk to the ACP doc root right here. So it's public documents, ACP web data, doc root. This yellow area is the only place that the web server can get to. I can't stress that enough. As a result, we can't put and plus there could be 1,000 different accounts, right? People could be logged in with 1,000 different names. Well, you have to put their data into their own areas. You don't want people to see each other's data. So again, all of that has to be organized by the web server and presented through this. My Documents. When you log in with a regular domain name or from a mobile device or whatever, you get a My Documents here. This is not the same as the My Documents on the Windows system. This is probably the #1 source of confusion right there. There's no way the web server can give you access to My Documents, and then who's my? As I say, there may be 1,000 people with accounts. Who's my? So the reason that people have so much trouble finding their documents when they use the web browser is they bypass this. This thing right here is the way to get to them. This is what the web server is there for. This is why you can create folders in here. You can see already there's folders here, and you can explore them, go look at the files, all of that. Okay? Instead, they want to go, I need to remote desktop in and then go into the browser and go look for the file folders and all of that. And it is ridiculous because you're drilling down. I'll go back here to the File Explorer, and what you're doing effectively is drilling down to the public documents, ACP web data, doc root, images, Here are all the different people who have accounts. I'm R. Denny, so that's my images. Well, there they all are, okay? Well, but Jay Dokes has some images. few other, I don't know, but these people, I guess they didn't use their accounts or I cleaned them out or something. But anyway, the idea is, what the heck is this? The reason for this is the web server stores its stuff in here, and it's not for public consumption. So when somebody uses a web browser and logs in and gives a username and password, and then they try to find their documents by remote desktoping, who are you? Are you the observatory operator? How the hell did you get in by remote desktop? That's the big question. So if you're the operator, why bother with all this stuff? Just remote in and do it that way. So by jumping back and forth, this is how people get themselves confused. Either you're a web browser out in the field using it and you're working with it that way, or you're physically in the observatory or you remote it in. And Paul, the answer is, let me finish this topic here, and I'll answer your question. It's a good question. How many concurrent logins do you think the web server can handle? Okay. So I hope this has maybe clarified things as to where things are. You either get to them by the browser if you've logged in from the internet, or you get to it with the real My Documents if you're the observatory operator and you're using the web interface or the ACP console to do your observing. Okay, Paul, concurrent logins, how many do you think the web server can handle? What is a login in the web server? Oh, if you're talking about accounts, I know of at least one or two that have over 1,000 accounts in them. If you're talking about how many people can concurrently sit there and watch what's going on, now you're getting into limitations. The ACP web server was never built for high volume. It was strictly an astronomer support service. So it's not really meant to be an entertainment medium where you have 500 people watching one person acquire images with 500 different web browsers sitting there banging on the system to get the system, to get the system status updated. But as far as how many people you can give accounts to, there's no practical limit on it. I hope that answers your question. If you want to, please put in a clarification or ask for my clarification. I'll be happy to do that. All right. So one of the ways that ACP kind of tries to help you with this is in ACP Help. Get this out of the way here. I'm my own technical director, so this is pretty cool that I can do this, but it requires me to stop for a minute and switch modes on the screen. Okay, so there is a thing in ACP Help called Where Are My Files? And it's actually accessible from ACP itself right here. Where are my files? Okay, so if you're in the observatory, as I say, if you're the observatory operator, you can get to it like this. You have to be the observatory operator to get to this ACP Help. It's not available on the web. However, there's lots of help on the web forums if you are okay with pushing the button marked Help. All right, so, and this will always happen to you. It will always ask you to approve the ActiveX thing. I couldn't get around that for any reason. So here's the tool that we supply to help you navigate through your image, log, and plan files. As I explained through the rest of this thing, there are two modes that you can run it. You can either be the observatory operator using the console or localhost, the Use Web Browser button. Please note, if you bypass the normal web login, you're considered local to the observatory. I think I've said this enough times, but it's really important for security. This thing has got to have security, and you have to be determined to be the observatory operator in order to get access to all this stuff. So for you who log in remotely or use the ACP console in this sort of old-fashioned way, where are our data and light images? under date night, that would be, and I will explain this more later. Boom, there it is. It takes you right to that location. My Documents, ACP Astronomy, Images. Okay. Or if you want to see the run logs, observing plan run logs under date night, boom, there it is. My Documents, ACP Astronomy, logs, etc. Now, it says here the flat field images are customized, and there is an auto flat config, and I did make some changes, and so it noticed that I have something set in auto flat config, and guess what? You can even get to that from this little tool directly and go look at the folder and file template for the naming. And by the way, this is a promo. Next week, I'm going to talk about file and folder naming and also how to deliver images to via the cloud to users. Especially universities, this is how they do it. They don't use the web My Documents. They actually have ACP rewrite the files into a Dropbox, and then each of their students has their own folder into which their images and their logs go, and this works really well. So, but then you have to customize that. We don't have time to go over the file and folder name customization and cloud delivery tonight. That'll be for the next program, which will be in 2 weeks. If you're running via the web, and it will actually give you your IP address, whatever the IP address of ACP is, or you can use your router wide area network address, the one that's in front before the port mapping. Anyway, then it says, where are your data and light images under user date night? And if you click that, it's supposed to take you directly there. Oh, yeah, it is. Hold on. Why is it not? That's interesting. Well, I don't know. You know how these... Oh, yeah, how about clicking the actual thing, not the image in my my switcher? All right, here we are. Okay, now my mouse is in the live window. So, boom. Guess what? It takes you right there. Now you're spelunking into ACP's web server's private location, where it stashes all of the stuff that it serves out to the web in that area that is sealed off from the rest of Windows. It can't be accessed by the web server. So there you are. And it takes you to the images folder under public documents, ACP web data, doc, root, and images. And then here are the usernames and the images for each of those users. Again, the normal default way that images are named starts with a folder that has the date. It's date night. That is the date at the beginning of the evening, and that lasts all night, so you don't get nailed by UTC date changes. Okay, so that's and the same goes for cal frames and plans and flat fields and all of that. It's the same idea here. You can use this "Where are my files" tool if you're the observatory operator. If you're not, and you're just an ordinary user, you're not concerned about this stuff. As an ordinary user, you either use the web My Documents, which is this thing here. Did I close that like I shouldn't have? Yes, I did. Okay, hold on. Log back in here again. All right, it remembered me. All right, so the web My Documents, this is what your users who are not accessible to the observatory, they get this My Documents, and that's how they are able to access their files. They don't care where it is on the disk. They don't care what's on the disk. They don't care anything about what's inside the observatory, just that they fill out a form, push a button, and then later on come here and get their image. Now you can also, instead of using the My Documents here, you can also set it up to directly deliver their images and their logs via Dropbox to them. And this is a really great way to do it. Next week, we're going to cover that, which is how to set that up. I'm going to do a little bit of a teaser right now on this and bring up customizing ACP, customizing file and folder names. Okay, this is all in ACP Help, and these are all tokens that you can use to cause your image names and folder names to be renamed by ACP. And there's a little generator tool here, and I'm just going to show you this for a sec so that you can get a flavor of this. What it does is asks you some questions. Well, this is just a guideline. You can do anything you want. This is only to help you understand how this works, and it is not restricted to these things. But you have the option of being able to rename your documents by target name or by date. And you can either make them unique using set repeat count, which you can see up here. Now, by changing this, which puts date UTC and time UTC, now look at the file name, a sample file name. So I'm going to be going over this whole thing next time, which will be in 2 weeks. We will be in Ontario at the Symposium for Telescope Science, SAS, next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So if you guys are going, if somebody's going, please stop by and say hi. I know you will. It's a small conference, so it's no big deal. Well, I hope this has helped you to understand how the file and folder storage for ACP works and how to get to them if you're in the observatory or if you're out on the internet. Again, if you have any questions, please put them on the Comm Center. I'll be happy to answer them there. I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.